So how much do you make?
We do about $250,000 a month right now.
And how old are you?
22.
And what do you do?
I run the largest Lovable agency in the world. So we build products on Lovable for clients, for startups, for enterprises, etc.
So, Jacob, what was the first service or thing you built?
The first thing we ever built was a digital platform for like a karate studio. So it was like during COVID, and obviously all the businesses went, had to go digital. We had this one kind of local karate studio that wanted to build like a platform, think like Peloton-like platform, right, for their students. And so we used no code at the time to build it. And that was like my first moment of like, interesting, like you can actually like get paid to build software, which is like obviously a pretty normal idea now, but I think as a 17-year-old at the time it was pretty cool.
So you began building stuff and creating platforms for various businesses. When did you realize that, oh shit, like this is, I can do this full time?
I would say probably like 6 months later was like the moment of like, okay, let's actually double down on building products exclusively. And then we started kind of putting together a small team, hired a sales guy, hired some developers, hired some designers, etc. I would say by like 2021, we were like fully, up and running as like a no-code product studio. I think the funny thing about this whole thing is like, I've just ridden the wave of being non-technical. I'm like the like golden example of like somebody that like has made a career for themselves in tech and is not technical. Obviously I have like a baseline knowledge to be able to communicate with developers and stuff like that, but I can't code. Like I would not be able to build like an app.
So before Lovable, you were using other no-code platforms. But when did you decide to make the switch? And what was the reasoning behind it? And how did that kind of look like?
Yeah, so before Lovable, we were using no-code tools. And basically, I got a text from a friend recommending me to check out Lovable one night. Kind of skeptical at first. I've heard of these AI tools, and most of them I tried that weren't very good. But when I started playing around with Lovable, probably a couple days later, I tried starting to develop like a project for a client. I was just so impressed. I like it was just immediately was like, holy shit, this is clearly different. And I was able to build that like client project just sitting there in like the next like 2-3 hours. A project that would have taken months, and that we charged probably $50,000 for. And I was like, shit, well, this is going to change everything. So basically the next day we got everybody in the conference room and on the team, and we just brainstormed on how to kind of pivot the company.
Eventually, I assume you had to like bring in more people and scale up. I'm wondering, how was that? How was it scaling up the agency and getting more customers?
I mean, at the beginning, it was a lot of just using like contractors, hiring people on a project basis. Because the thing is, like with agencies, the best thing about the business model is that it's a positive cash flow cycle, meaning that you can take in money before you actually spend the money. It's one of the few businesses that is like that. So basically in the early days, I was just able to like collect money and then go give it to developers. Obviously now that's not what it is. Kind of more of a negative cash flow cycle or more of a break-even cash flow cycle. When you're starting off, you can kind of leverage and be scrappy like that. And so that's basically what we did for probably the first year or so. And then eventually you like actually find people that you like working with, and you kind of strike more kind of like retainers, and kind of bring them on as more like actual full-time, part-time people. And then eventually you just hire them like fully, as an employee.
What is your number one tip when building with Lovable?
Yeah, so I think like if I were to give like an answer in the next 15 seconds, when building with AI, the biggest difference between good builders and bad ones are the ones that know how to use their time and credits effectively. This means like knowing, first off, like really strong prompts and how to prompt, but also like I see people a lot, like really like junior developers, they'll just like prompt something, it won't work, or it won't work the way they want it to, and they'll just continue like going down the rabbit hole. Okay, I find that you need to kind of act in a more like problem solution oriented way, where is like you need to make a decision. Like if you prompt something and it comes out with like not what you're looking for, you can either invest more time into doubling down on that problem, or you can say, okay, well, clearly something was wrong. Let's revert back to history, which Lovable makes really easy, and let's try that again. Let's change the prompt this way, and let's maybe add more here, and then do it again. Right? Because the thing with AI is like once you kind of like that initial prompt, especially when you're first starting a project, that sets so much of the groundwork. That's the difference of like saving you like days, just that one prompt, right? And so you take that and if you multiply it by like a branch of prompts, right? Each prompt, is you're investing more and more time based on how good it is. And so you need to really be strategic on, okay, this worked, this didn't work, am I going to double down? So yeah, I think that's like the biggest mistake I see like people getting started with is they just like get caught in these like rabbit holes and endless cycles, and it costs them a lot of time and it costs them a lot of credits.
Based on all of your like friends and stuff and your experience with distributing products, what do you think is like the best method? Let's say someone builds something with Lovable and they want to make some money with it. Say it's a consumer app. What do you think is the best strategy?
I would say high level. You need to pick an idea that is already validated. Often I see people trying to come up with these like revolutionary ideas and like request NDAs before even sharing the idea. I just want to say right now that if you think your idea requires an NDA, you have this backwards. If your idea is that new and revolutionary that like nobody has done it before, people think that that's a good thing. They're like, oh, no one's thought about this. I think out of 8 billion people, if nobody's tried your idea or nobody's thought of it, that there's probably a reason. People like often mistake. They're like, oh, well, you know, nobody has tried this or built this. Well, it's like, you don't know that. Maybe they tried it and it failed. So that's the first thing, is that you want to find ideas that are already actually in the market.
What do you think about raising money? Would you raise money if you were like starting off again and you were to build an app?
I think first off, it really depends on what you're building. I also think it depends on like who you are. I think you got to like kind of know yourself, which is like, well, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to it. One is like, obviously if you raise money, like you are basically have a boss. I don't think people want to say that, but that is the truth. If you raise money, you are now obligated to make that money back. I think that the first thing is like raising money is a really hard process. And so I think you need to know, first off, do you have any like leverage, whether your personal brand, whether you're some like technical genius that worked at Google, whether you're some special ability that like will make it slightly easier for you to raise money. Okay. Do you have some track record of building successful businesses? If the answer is yes to those, I think then there's more of a case. The answer is no to those. You're going to be spending way too much time to like actually raise the money. You have no leverage and you're just going to be kind of like fighting for the bottom of the barrel. And so I think that's the first kind of thing you need to ask yourself. And then it kind of becomes, okay, well, do I actually need money to build what I'm trying to do? Or am I just trying to raise for the flex of it and like being able to have some cash? I think you can go pretty far, honestly, with like 100, 200K. You could do a lot with $100,000, right? You could go do a launch video. You could go run a, funnel, paid ads. So I don't think you need to go raise like $1 million, even if you do go raise, because you're also going to get diluted heavily. I think it's more possible than ever, and probably better than ever, to build a company without raising money. I do think that like if you really are in the camp of like, I want to take a moonshot swing, the pros for raising money aren't just the money, it's the fact that like once you're in the bubble, you're in the bubble kind of, and like, these investors, they know people who know people, and it'll just make it easier.
I think a lot of people, they don't think about the fact that as you mentioned, you kind of will have a boss when you raise money, right? Like the investors have expectations on you. I wonder how the future is going to look like. Do you have any visions for the future? How do you think the market will have evolved?
I think the way to build startups MVPs is like super different. There used to be like a clear playbook for building software. And basically the ideology was build something super, super scrappy, even maybe like just a wait list, get it out as fast as possible, iterate on it, get user feedback and validate it, and then just keep doing that until eventually you have enough validation to just go build the entire product. I think that my model is completely outdated now. I think the new strategy is that you use these tools to build a product, which obviously is like basically now is just as easy as putting up a wait list, essentially. The real way to kind of distinguish in this new market is going to be like who actually thinks the most about the app experience and who thinks the most about distribution. Basically what I'm trying to say is like the moat is no longer being able to build a product. The moat is now being able to build a good product. Everything that you would do, you can now just do it faster and cheaper, but the people that will win are going to be the ones that really think about product, really think about marketing, and really think about branding and distribution as a whole.
The moat has kind of shifted towards just care. You can no longer just like get an idea and be the quickest one to make like a shitty version of it. If someone has a job right now and wants to get into entrepreneurship, where's your advice to them?
Okay, I have a couple of random thoughts. The first thing is do what you're good at, not necessarily what you like. What you like may not give you the life you want. The caveat is that what you're good at is probably what you're eventually going to enjoy. You may just not know it yet. So if you're really good at sales, but maybe it's not like maybe your passion is like, I don't know, marine biology, okay? Now, marine biology, may be great, but if you're really good at sales, maybe you don't like it as much, but eventually you're going to start liking it because like momentum is fun. It's fun to win. When you just obsess over something for a long period of time, you'll eventually learn to like it, especially if you're good at it. That's my first advice. I would say like, don't do what you like, but do what you're good at, and you will probably learn to like it.
Okay, but Jacob, I appreciate having you on. and people can check you out on X, on YouTube, on Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate it. If anyone is like interested in working with even, myself or the agency or the cohort, creme.digital is our agency name, and you can find us on the Lovable partner page. We're the only gold agency. So Isaac, really appreciate your time, and definitely I'll be talking a lot about Lovable in the future, and obviously continue to do so. So if you just want any general like Lovable tips, tricks, etc., Twitter, LinkedIn is a great place to find me as well.